Okay, today I have a story for you. So if you are small and you cannot see, please come to the front. Children, I know you are small and you cannot see. Come to the front. You're going to sit right here for me, just so you can see. I don't want you to miss out on any of the goodness of this story. Alja, that's great, but you might need to sit for me, okay? You can sit right there, that's good. Excellent. That might be too far forward. Sorry, friends. Just move back a little bit there. Great. Do you guys want to sit down over there? Excellent. I just want to make sure you can all have a good vision. I wonder whether anyone has seen this 9-foot tall giant in the room. Does anyone know his name? Oh, very good. I'm glad when you get the right answers. Not only did we do this 2 weeks ago in Sunday school, so it's good you remembered. Yes, church, today I am going to tell you a story that I'm sure a lot of you have heard before. Some of you may never have heard it before. I'm pretty sure most of us heard it in Sunday school when we were quite small. But I am going to tell it again because it is a great story and there is a lot we can learn from it. It is the story, of course, of David and Goliath. Are you ready for it? I know we've heard this one before, but we're going to hear it again, okay? Before we get started, I am going to need one adult to help me hold Goliath, and I'm going to need one small person to play David. Who wants to be? Oh, look, you're all so adorable, and you've all put your hands up. Oh, how do I choose? Oh, Kobe, do you want to do it? Come on then. Okay, you can just stand here for me. And then an adult, anyone want to hold Goliath? Thanks, Andrew. Just make sure he doesn't hurt anyone too soon, you know. I know he's a warrior, but great. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a lot of questions today, church. So have your minds ready and your hearts open and your ears out. Listening ears on. And I want you to really meditate on what the story is telling you. And I want you to answer these questions for yourselves in your hearts, okay? So, we begin our story in the valley of Elah. Where two armies are encamped on mountains either side. The Israelite army are on one side of the valley, and the Philistines are on the other. Emerging from the mass of the Philistine army came into the valley a champion, a warrior standing 9 foot tall. His name was Goliath. As he approached, his steps shook the earth. To look at, Goliath was undefeatable. He stood 9 foot tall, wearing a bronze helmet, a bronze coat of mail, bronze armor on his legs, and a javelin of bronze slung on his back. But what do you see? Church, what do you see when you are facing problems that seem far greater than yourself? His voice rumbled across the valley as he cried to the Israelite army. "Why have you come out to fight us this day?" he cried. "Choose one of your men to fight me, and if he kills me, we will be your servants. But if I kill and defeat him, you will be our servants and serve us." King Saul and all of the Israelite troops felt fear in their hearts as they gazed upon this champion, and this carried on for 40 days. The armies staring at each other from across the mountains, and Goliath coming forward every day, bellowing this call to come and meet him. The Israelites remained frozen in fear, with his image burned into their eyes. But was there anyone brave enough to face Goliath? What do you see, church? When you look in the mirror, who do you see in the morning? Not too far away, in a little town called Bethlehem, there lived a boy who saw differently. His name was David, and he loved God. Do you love God, Kobe? Excellent answer. Very good. He was the youngest son of Jesse of the house of Judah, who had 8 sons, and he was a shepherd. The 3 eldest of Jesse's sons had gone off to fight in the battle, but David had stayed behind to look after his sheep. Now, Jesse asked David to go and take his brothers some provisions for the battle. So, making sure that his sheep were attended to, David went off to the valley of Elah to give his brothers some food and to see what was going on. "What are you doing here?" David asked some of the men. And they explained to him about Goliath's terms. His brothers found him. "What are you doing here, you brat? Come to get in on the glory?" See, David's brothers were not his number one fan. In fact, no one thought very much of David at all. When people looked at David, all they saw was somebody very small and young and incapable of things. He was just a shepherd after all. How much could he do? But David ignored his brothers, and he carried on asking. So the men finally told him what Goliath was up to. This outraged David. He thought, 40 days of all of this, and not one person in the Israelite army has stood up to this brute. He said, "He's disrespecting the living God," cried David. "Who is this Goliath? Who does he think he is? He has nothing on God. We will not bow down and serve the Philistines." David's outrage spread fast and found its way to the king's ears, who sent for David. David spoke to Saul and he said, "Don't give up hope, sir. I will go and I will fight this brute." "David," said Saul, looking him up and down, that is absolute madness. You are tiny and he is 9 feet tall. You cannot fight a giant." True, David was small, young, and untrained in combat. To look at with your eyes, David was 100 to 1 bet. But what do you see, church, when you look at others? What do you see in the people around you? Do you see them as champions, or do you see them the way the world sees them? David stood his ground. "Look," he said, "I know I'm small and young, but I am not useless. I look after my father's sheep every day, and I've already defeated a bear and a lion." Now, I'm not sure how ridiculous that must have sounded to Saul. I'm not entirely sure that shepherd ranks quite highly on your CV when you're trying to enter the army, but David continued nonetheless. "This brute has defied our God," he said. "He will go the same way as the bear and the lion. The Lord delivered them into my hands, and he will surely deliver Goliath into mine." So Saul looked at David again and said, "Go on then, and may the Lord be with you." Saul clothed David in his armor, but it didn't feel quite right to him. So David threw off the armor, and he went to fight Goliath the only way he knew how, exactly as himself. Here's your slingshot. So, all David had was his sling, and he went down to the valley and he picked up 5 smooth stones from the river. They're very colorful, aren't they? Little did you know, in Israel, rainbow rocks are a thing. So, David approached Goliath, and Goliath approached David. Finally, the 2 champions had come face to face, Goliath towering over David and majorly insulted that this was what the Israelites had presented to him as a champion. He called out, "Come on then, I will feed your flesh to the birds and the beasts." But Goliath could not see the truth. Unfazed by the Philistine, he calmly said, "No. You come to me with your swords and your javelins, but I come to you in the name of the Lord. And today the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and Israel and all the world will know that our God is mighty and victorious." David saw the truth of what Goliath was, and he knew exactly what he needed to do. So Goliath began to run at David, and David at Goliath. As Goliath drew back his javelin, David reached into his pocket, put a stone in his sling, slung it round, and it embedded itself, on another child. Do you want to try again? Worst comes to worst, just throw it at his head. Where did it go? Where's Mike? There's one there, baby. Yeah. So the children have been practicing how to defeat Goliath. Prayer. Yeah. Woo! Yay! The stone embedded itself into Goliath's forehead, and everybody froze as the giant tumbled to the ground. Goliath lay there, dead and defeated. As his collapse rippled through the valley, an almighty roar of praise erupted from the Israelite army as they ran across the valley, and the Philistines fled in fear. But friends, what do you see? How are you seeing? David saw with God's vision. He knew who he was, he knew who he was called to be, and he had no fear. Church, I want to ask us this morning, do we know who we are? Banging. What do you see when you're facing things that seem greater than yourself? What do you see when you look in a mirror? And what do you see when you look at other people around you who might need you to see something that they can't see? So friends, I'm going to ask you this morning to really think about it. What are you seeing? Amen.